Welcome to the Put On Waivers Media Group, home of the Put On Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
And welcome, everybody, to another glorious episode of the Put On Raiders podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, along with Ryan Holmes. And these shores are like on fire, but they are still on the West Coast here, on the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. The heat wave is no joke, so like it's pretty warm today. I mean, I'm like, when you see me wiping my head today, it's really I'm in the little homemade studio I got going on, and it's hot in here. And obviously we're taking audio, so I can't run a fan. Otherwise you hear it the whole time. RTPOW podcast is my Twitter handle, and RHOLM22 is Ryan's. Ryan, how you doing today?
I almost melted today. No joke. The heat's here. It was 96 degrees at like 9 o'clock in my house, and I live close to the ocean.
And I got
up to 103 today. I was like, did I move to Arizona and not know it? Like, what happened?
I would say the only thing I would say about it is I'm not sure. I mean, you travel, so like, the East Coast, 96 or 100 with that humidity and the mosquitoes, and it's a little bit different. You get like a little bit of a breeze out here, but yeah, but like there's no way around it. It was hot today. It's hot. It's hot tonight. Like in my place, I put the AC on, so everybody know in my house, I'm like, yo, it better be hot. You put the AC on. But now last night I had to put the AC on. It was burning up. It was burning up. Heat wave. It was going crazy. The Raiders have made a bunch of moves here. In this whole situation, we'll talk about that. Talk about Waller. Talk about our guy DJ Turner, 53-man roster. But I did want to start off first with the trade, right? The trade that kind of took people by storm. I did not realize, and I took a lot of vitriol from Raider Nation on my stance on Trayvon Mullen. So like I like Trayvon Mullen. I thought he had physical abilities. I thought on this team, I think the biggest reason why I thought he was going to come back was because the money situation. He wasn't making big money. You made that point. But, I mean, obviously they didn't think so. They moved on. What were your thoughts about, when you found out that the Raiders traded Trayvon Mullen to Arizona?
Yeah, I was floored when I saw that because I'm a big Trayvon Mullen guy too. I've seen every snap of his career in the NFL, and I've said numerous times, I think he's a number 2 corner in this league. He's a starting cornerback in the NFL. And, a lot of Raider fans online are just going off, oh, he can't stay healthy. He's always hurt. Like, the guy played every game for 2 years and then started 5 before getting hurt last year. And I don't know why the surgery took place. And I think it was May. He didn't have surgery right after the season. Then he missed OTAs. And to me, I think it's a mistake because you basically traded him for, a bag of footballs. You got a conditional 7th-round pick for a guy that was making about $2 million who could step in and be a starter if something happened to one of those outside guys. And cornerback depth's important in this league. You saw it last year. The Raiders were signing guys off the streets, the Desmond Trufants of the world, the Brandon Faisons, and just throwing guys out on the field. And what we talked about last week being probably the deepest cornerback room they've had in 20 years now seems really light. Darius Phillips got picked up by the Broncos and put on their 53-man roster, so he's going to be on an active roster. And Trayvon Mullen, maybe he came to the Raiders. The only way I can rationalize it is he came to the Raiders and said, look, I'm not going to be getting the snaps I want. I'm in my contract here. I want a second contract. Like, if you guys can move me, go ahead and do it. Maybe it was a mutual thing. He clearly wasn't going to start. They were going to move Hobbs outside with Rock Ya-Sin, and then they must like Averett. But behind those 3 guys, and I'm not sold on Averett. I like him. And no way am I sold that if something happened, that guy's going to line up and play 10 or 12 games as a starter on the outside and hold up in the AFC West. Who do you have behind those 3 guys? You got rid of Phillips, who looked pretty good in the preseason. You got rid of Mullen, who's proven he can be a starter in the NFL. You got Sam Webb and Amik Robertson right now. And I'm not sure how either one of those guys would hold up in a regular season game against 1s and 2s right now. I mean, we know what Sam Webb can do in the preseason against third-string guys, but what is he going to do when he's lined up across from Cortland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy or, those kind of guys? So Aruma Stray just became a weakness to me, and I still think they're a cornerback short, and at some point those guys are going to have to play this year and they're going to have to step up.
Yeah, I kind of I agree with you. I think that's the argument for him to stay. I mean, I think that what you just laid out in that kind of maybe that conversational piece that maybe Mullen had could have possibly had with management probably could have been something that took place, because that's where this deal kind of would make more sense. He wasn't going to start. It does make all the sense in the world for him not to make. But I mean, like in the NFL, and I sent you that article about the nickel corner thing. Like you know, three corners play on every down now. Like they literally play on every single down. There's very few downs where there's not three corners on the field. So he would have gotten playing time. I mean, maybe it wouldn't have been like the whole playing time that he was looking for, but he still would have got playing time. And like some of these guys, do I know that Amik Robinson's going to play 16 games? I saw Nate Robinson. I saw Nate Hobbs do it. I saw Nate Hobbs do it. They might need Nate Robinson in this secondary.
They might.
He got speed. Anthony Everett, 16 games. I mean, again, those are things you're worried about as far as that goes. So we'll see what happens with that group. But I do agree with you on that. But when I was saying that, I get the love, but the love you have for him, I understand, because everybody loves people in silver and black, and we're so used to the sky always falling for the Raiders. But as far as on the field goes, we'll have to see if it's a mistake. I thought that I was more floored by the Darius Phillips move. I thought for sure. I thought he was playing well. He wasn't making a whole lot of money. He's familiar with what they do. I know Amik has quote unquote. Amik hasn't showed it in the game yet, and maybe Amik is told, be easy in these games. You're going to be on the roster. But I was not pleased that Amik. If Amik got cut and Phillips got kept, I wouldn't have said anything about it.
Yeah, the first thing I thought of when that happened was, one, they're going to be in a lot of big nickel, where they're not. I guess they don't view that they need a true nickel on the field if something were to happen to Hobbs, or they move him outside. And two, they're going to play a lot of zone because I expect Diablo and Abram to play a lot of that big nickel and slide outside and kind of be that overhang defender in the flat and come on blitzes and stuff like that. But, there's going to be situations where those guys are going to have to be in man coverage against the inside receiver, and you could line up against, Keenan Allen a lot. And you could line up, depending on who you're playing, a team's going to move their best receiver inside once they figure out what the Raiders are doing schematically defensively. And keeping 5 safeties. That's why I sent that tweet out a couple of weeks ago. I was pretty convinced at that point they were keeping 10 DBs. I didn't know if it was 6 and 4 or 5 and 5. Clearly they went 5 and 5. But on the Mullen thing too, you probably could have got a 5th round compensation pick if he leaves as a free agent and signs a decent deal somewhere else. So I think they got less value in the trade now than if he just would have been on the roster and you have him as insurance depth. And I've never heard anything about him being a bad guy in the locker room. So I don't think he's gonna do that. So that one really surprised me. The Phillips one too. Phillips might go to Denver and he might be the nickel. He might play a lot over there, and we'll see. And they didn't put him on the practice squad; they put him on the active 53-man roster. So clearly, Denver likes him. And I thought as a backup returner, as a slot guy, and right now the only true slot they have is, I guess you're going to say, Robertson, but he hasn't done a lot of that in game action. He didn't play a lot his first 2 years. So that leads me to believe here comes big nickel, and you're going to see a lot of Diablo on the field with those other 2 linebackers over there. And you're also going to see Abram up there, and when they put Harmon back deep. So I could see Merrick, if they really needed to, moving him up and letting him play man in the slot, depending on whatever the call is. But it's going to be really interesting to see how they use these safeties, because clearly they think highly of them if they're not really carrying any true slot guys. And technically Hobbs isn't a true slot guy. He played outside in college. He's played 1 year slot.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with the secondary. Listen, they're building this team. So, I felt like they had a couple of pieces here where they could have maybe kept at least one. I thought they would keep one of those guys. But but in that there was a tweet by Tyrann Mathieu that talked about where something with football is the only place where youth will replace experience all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that was like he took it down. I don't know why, but I think it's true in this situation, right? Because you look at, I mean, I would think that Webb's experience and Amik's experience, one of those guys would have left, or maybe went to the practice squad where you would think the experience of a Mullen, experience of Phillips would have kept them on the roster. So interesting moves there as far as that goes. They went 5-5. We know one thing about the Patrick Graham and Josh McDaniels. It's going to be week to week, so maybe they feel like this is the best thing they could do week to week, and we'll take it there. We'll take it from there. You want to have some fun with the offensive line?
Okay. We need to talk about it at some point. We'll see where they go. All the trust right now is in Mick Ziegler or whatever they call him, McDaniels and Ziegler. Yeah. But there's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and they need to be answered quickly with 3 division games right out of the gate, first 5 weeks.
Yeah. So real quick. So right now, I mean, I'm just going off of what I have. What I have for the depth chart is Illuminor at right tackle, Lester Cotton at right guard, James Simpson, and then Colton Miller. So Colton Miller and Simpson for me were like, that was a no-brainer for me, just for me. I think that Parham maybe down the stretch will end up being center, but if they want to switch him and Cotton out at guard, I'd be okay with that. I just don't like some of these. I mean, when you watch it on film, some of these screen passes that he's just known for and just like really good at, calling Josh McDaniels, they're missing because Cotton is missing his block. Or they do a stunt and it's like they just can't. Him and Andre James are not great at that. When teams are mixing up that rushing lanes by running stunts and they can't pick that up. What's your? I know everybody has concerns about it. You gotta see how it plays out. But what's the biggest takeaway you have from the offensive line?
My takeaway is there's a lot of inexperience. Jermaine Illuminor hasn't played a lot of snaps the last couple of years. Dylan Parham's a rookie. Lester Cotton's never really played in an NFL game. And Andre James has 1 year of experience as a starter. And let's just say Thayer Munford at some point gets in there. He's a rookie too. So, like, me personally, I would start Miller, Simpson, James. I would start Parham. I want the athlete in space to run screens, to run the outside zone, to pull around. I just don't see it with Lester Cotton. I'm not a Lester Cotton truther. You can keep him from death, but I think he showed a lot of issues on the move. His movement skills out in space when he was pulling, he wasn't getting on his blocks, getting to the second level, and then pass pro, he's kind of leaning a lot, and you see him get beat with swim moves pretty frequently. So, my concern at this point is I would start Parham at right guard, but if Munford is going to win that job in the next 3 or 4 weeks, you would be starting 2 rookies on the right side. So, not saying they can't get it done, but that would be a concern of mine. I like them both. Munford, for me, just the size, the physicalness of him. I don't think he's got great feet, and it's more just a mountain of man that has long arms. It's going to take a long time for those ends to get around him as long as he gets depth on his pass sets. He's got to clean up some run blocking stuff. But right now, I want to keep Derek Carr upright. So I'm going to start Illuminor and Parham, who are the better pass blockers. And I'm going to start Colton Miller. And I'm going to trust that when I want to run the ball, I'm going to run it behind John Simpson, is what I would do.
Yeah. And I think also, too, like I hear somebody say, hey, but they're going to get the ball out quick. Well, I understand that part of it. And that's fair. That's fair to get the ball out quick. But then if you have that rush coming, you're getting the ball out quick, those DBs can jump on those routes. You have to be able to mix and match the screen game with the intermediate passing game with the deep balls as well. If you just sit there and try to get the ball out quick every single time, then those are where the pick sixes can develop. So, and then also, what kind of running game is this football team going to have? It's not going to be power. I wouldn't think it's not going to be power. So I mean that zone game is going to be in full effect. We'll have to see how that goes. I think Zamir looks better in that one where Josh Jacobs and we didn't get to Britton Brown making this football team, but he seems like he runs zone a little bit better than Zamir White. So what can we expect for the Raider running game as far as this makeup of this offensive line?
I think they're counting a lot on not seeing, 8-man boxes because
Because
I
of
don't
the
think teams
personnel.
I don't think teams are going to drop a safety down in the box when you have Adams and Waller out there on the field. So they're going to have to respect that. So I think that they'll be able to run the ball okay. I don't think this is going to be a top 5 rushing team in the league by any stretch. It's probably going to be more in the average bucket. But I think they'll run the ball enough. The question for me is going to be when they have to run the ball, when it's, let's say it's 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 1 or, 4th and 2, and they need those 2 yards. Can they run the football? Can they run the football with 4 minutes left in the game and the lead to keep the defense off the field? That's what I would be concerned with. I think McDaniels will scheme it up well enough to where they'll be able to move the football consistently. I think early on, we're going to see a lot of dink and dunk, short routes, check downs to the tight end, because I think they're going to keep the tight end in to help the right tackle. He's going to chip, release late into the flat or over the ball. I think the running back's going to kind of do the same thing. They're going to chip. They're going to go into the flat, run an angle route, maybe swing route back over the middle of the field. You're going to see a lot of dump downs. I don't think you're going to see the explosive plays down the field to Devontae Adams like week 1, week 2, like Raider fans think they're just going to come out and start throwing it all over the yard. I just don't think the pass protection is ready to do that. And that's not to say they won't be. I think it's probably going to take 6 to 8 weeks for whatever line they decide to go with to gel. New coaching staff, new online coach, get the techniques down, finally get to play next to someone without all the rotating pieces going around. So it might be week 8 before we really start to see the run game take off. But I think the passing game's more than good enough to keep them and score enough points to win games early in the season. But I think the best version of the Raiders is going to be down the stretch when we start looking at November and December.
And the play action game too. I mean, so like that could help this offensive line as well too. If you're getting 3, if you're getting 4 or 5 yards, because of I think that's the one you made a good point about the personnel. When you have Renfro, Waller, and Adams on the field, and then if you mix in Tyron Johnson, like and then and DJ Turner, like they have some of these guys. A lot of these guys have breakaway ability, and you're playing team EPA, right? In the Chargers' first game, they don't care about where you run the football. They want to stop you from passing it. So that's going to be something that you have to look at as well. They didn't stop the pass last year. I mean, they stopped the run last year very well at all. So, but they did add some beef up in the middle with Sebastian Day, Joseph Day in the middle there. So we'll see if that helps them stop the run a little bit better. And Mac has been in his career been a pretty good run defender as well. Better than Bosa.
I think what you're going to see too is if this starts to bog down, they're just going to go empty, and you're going to have Derek Carr in the shotgun, and you're basically going to have
Fresno
they're going
State.
to move that. They're going to make the tight end or the running back be the number 1 receiver on the outside. So the defense has to declare, and then you'll see motion. So he's going to know right away whether it's zone or man, and he's going to know where the matchup is, because what McDaniels likes to do is a lot of his offense when they go spread is literally concept. So they have a 2-man game on one side. Maybe it's a slant and an out route. Maybe it's a slant and a post. And on the other side, they'll have a 3-man game. But Derek Carr is going to know before the snap. And I remember watching all these Patriots games, like, why are they covering Julian Edelman? Why are they covering Wes Welker with the middle linebacker? Just based on the alignment and all the mismatches that McDaniels is really good at creating. They can still go 21 personnel and go empty. They can go 22 personnel and go empty. So you're going to see running backs lined up, all the way outside the numbers and be like, what are they doing? But he's basically just creating matches on the inside. Then you take Renfro and you take Adams and you move them inside as the number 2 or the number 3 receiver, and you match them up on linebackers or safeties if they need to get the ball out quick. But ball control, 12-play drives, they're going to have to score touchdowns early in the red zone, because I don't think you're going to be seeing like 4-play, 80-yard drives, 35-yard touchdown throws, stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it doesn't seem like, until you get that offensive line to gel. Disappointment that they didn't just go out there and try to just get a veteran right tackle.
They should have done that in March.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why. I mean, I just feel like that's even after Adams. Like, I mean, there's options. There were options out there to get a good. I mean, just get a guy out there, a veteran guy, to kind of right the ship. And then to me, you can slow play Munford. Like, it doesn't have to be like maybe on on when you go heavy on like a goal line, he can play in those situations. So he doesn't have to come out and play. It seems like they're kind of setting him up to start playing. Maybe he got healthy and start playing by week 5 or 6. It just seems like
Yeah.
he's on his way to being a starting right tackle, doesn't it?
Yeah, and let's be honest, like the season hasn't even started, and Jermaine and Luminor is option C. Like option A was going to be Brandon Parker. Option B was the development of Alex Leatherwood. We're on option C. Um, Lester Cotton's probably option B. I would assume that Denzel Good, if he was healthy, would have been option A. So we're already on the second and third options on the right side before the season even started. So luckily, Illuminor is going to hold up and pass. I don't have any concern about him as a pass blocker. To me, it's more is he going to get pushed in the run game. We'll see. Munford, we'll see if he gets playing time early. It's going to be with a lot of help from a tight end. You're going to see Foster Moreau basically have to be a blocker for most of this season because they're not going to do it with Darren Waller. You're not keeping Darren Waller in the block. So you're going to see a lot of 12 personnel, 22 personnel. The good thing is they can create a ton of matchups because the other teams are going to have to stay in base against that when you have two backs and two tight ends on the field. So we'll see. I trust Josh McDaniels to mix it up. He knows personnel. He knows how to design what he wants to do and take from defenses.
And they have shown discipline so far in the preseason. So,
oh yeah, and the good news is the defense looks like it's actually going to be pretty good this year. So the defense, they're not going to be down 17-7 in the second quarter, or they're not going to blow a 17-point lead. So we'll see. It's going to be an exciting year.
Yeah. The Joe Hague,
Joe Hegg,
Joe Hague is a veteran offensive lineman who's played throughout the offensive line, formerly of the Steelers. He was in for a visit with the Raiders too. So he has 40 starts to his credit. So that's not nothing. In the National Football League, he got replaced this year, in with the Steelers. So let's just be, that's not really, but still, a veteran presence there could really help, help this football team, on the offensive line. Was any other offensive lineman news? Was anybody?
Yeah, they signed one to the practice squad. A guy that was in camp with
the Chiefs.
The Chiefs.
Yes.
Germain or Gurman. Vitaly Gurman, I believe was his name. Was a left tackle, left guard in college. I think he went to Toledo. From the scouting reports and stuff I read, I've never watched film on him, but just doing some quick research on him, it sounds like he's going to be a guard. He's an interior guy, 6'4", 310, kind of just a brute, power run blocker to add depth. Apparently had a really good preseason, according to some stuff I saw from the Chiefs writers. Joe Hague was a starter his first 2 years with the Colts. Then he went to Tampa. He won a ring with Tampa, and then he was with the Steelers for 1 year. But 40 starts over 6 years. He's played left tackle, right tackle. His best spot's probably right tackle. That's what he was playing in the preseason. He played one preseason game this year against the Seahawks. I think it was early. Got a concussion. Didn't play the last, I want to say, 2 preseason games. That's probably why, there was probably some issues there, and the Steelers decided to move on from him.
Yep.
The Raiders did not sign him today, as far as I know. So we'll see if they do make a move tomorrow.
Neither of them, right? They didn't sign either him or Hague.
No, Hague's who I was talking about. Hague did not sign today. Yeah. They did sign the
they did sign to the practice squad. Yeah, you're right.
And there was another one. They signed a safety today too.
Yes, they did.
Practice squad.
I remember. I'll find his name in a second. All right, so that's cool. We know where the Raiders stand there. As far as we're gonna zip through these rooms real quick before we get to like the Waller stuff. I did want to touch on the little 49ers thing because of the Garoppolo thing is just really interesting. You got Collins. I keep calling Collins. Hollins, Renfro, Tyron Johnson, and Devontae Adams, and then you got DJ Turner. So 1, 2, 3 of those of the 5 play special teams. So that does not surprise me at all. Happy for DJ Turner. Kick returner, all that stuff like that. Punt returner, coverage. He talked about it in his interviews about that was a big part of the big reason why he made this football team. Was probably special teams.
Yeah, we nailed the wide receiver room. The 5 that we thought were going to be there are there.
Yeah.
Turner's the backup in the slot, and he's a special teams guy. Probably going to be him or Abdullah is going to be the kick returner here. And he'll probably back up Renfro as the punt returner. Sounds like Renfro is still going to be the punt returner. I'm not too excited about that, but it sounds like
true?
That's the way they're leaning. That's what the beat reporters were saying. that they still think Renfro is going to be the kicker or the punt returner. So we'll see.
For playoffs only. That's the way I look at that one. The backup offensive line looks like Dylan Parham's going to be there. You got Darren Munford, who's battling injury, and Jackson Barton, who was throwing people around, played pretty good in the off season. Had a pretty funny dance after a touchdown run as well too. He's moving a little bit on that one. I thought it was pretty cool. Tight ends Waller, Moreau, we know that, but Jesper Horsted, right? Came through. He showed some really good hands, especially on that. I thought even more so than the big play he had, I thought the fourth down they went for I think there shouldn't even be. I think you should be going to fourth down all the time in preseason anyway. But the fourth down he got kind of the body catch, uses his hands, shielded off the defender on that fourth down in Miami. Was good to see. Looks like Jared Stidham is the backup for Derek Carr. And then a lot of running backs. You got the fullback, Johnson, and then you got Zamir, Bolden, Abdullah, and then Britton. They feel like the way he ran, they feel like they must have felt like he was going to get picked up.
Well, he was one of their guys. They didn't cut any of their draft picks, so they were probably like, we like this guy. He's a good runner. Let's keep him. How many running? I think 33 guys around the entire league were claims. That's a little over one per team. The Jets had 7. How many running backs were picked up? I don't know if there was very many at all. There's really good running backs on the street right now. I don't think he would have got claimed, but they didn't want to risk it. The interesting thing is Britton Brown did run down on punts and kicks in the preseason, so there is some special teams. I don't want running backs covering kicks. I want linebackers and defensive guys that are used to tackling, but he did do it. So maybe and also you got to think there's going to be, I think 7 of these guys are going to be inactive on game day. So is he going to be inactive? They're not going to carry 5 running backs on game day. I don't see that. So one of these guys is going to be inactive every week. So they clearly wanted to keep him around, and it just goes to show it to me. It's more like, hey, I think they're going to use Jacobs a lot this year, and we'll see where everything lies at the end of the year. But they want White and they want Brown on this team moving forward. And I don't blame them. I think they're both NFL running backs. I like Brown. I just think you could have got him to the practice squad. I don't think you needed to release someone else to keep him.
Yeah. We know about, Cleveland Farrell makes his team along with Malcolm Kuntz, Billings, Farrell, Matthew Butler. We talked about them keeping all their picks. Kendall Vicker, Bilal Nichols, Tashawn Bauer, which was good to see him make the team, and then Max Crosby. Anything about the down linemen?
Those are the 11 that I had staying on the team. There is a role for every one of those guys. I thought it was interesting today that Cleveland Farrell came out and mentioned he's lost 10 pounds. He feels better, playing outside and not having to move inside like past stats wanted him to do. And we'll see. It seems like he has the right mindset. He's like taking it year to year. Like, it doesn't bother me that I didn't pick up my 5th-year option. I'm going to do what the team wants me to do. Seems like his head's in the right spot. And I do still think at some point this year they're going to need him. And he'll make a play at some point. I don't think he's going to get a ton of snaps. I mean, probably 5 to 10 snaps a week. But
who's the Jets offensive lineman that he eats up all the time? What's his name? Was it Becton?
No, it was the left. It wasn't back to Becton was hurt. It was a different guy. I don't know if it was George Fant.
I forgot it
was a left tackle.
Left tackle. Yeah, whoever that was, he eats that guy for lunch. I hope they can continue to do that. And then we talked about the cornerbacks and the safeties. I like the linebacker room. I think this is really deep. I think it's a really good one. I do like the young talent they have there. I didn't think Darren Butler was going to make the team. I thought Luke Masterson was going to make it over him, but they both make it. So I don't know how I'm on game day. I mean, I'm not sure how many they're going to have 5 linebackers active on game day. It's probably not going to happen. So so we'll see what happens as far as that goes.
I do want to mention Blake Martinez. He was released today by the Giants. I was texting you about it. I saw a lot on social media that Raider fans want him to come over. And to me, it's like Blake Martinez is a starting linebacker in the NFL. He's not going to sign to be the 4th linebacker on the Raiders and play special teams. Like, he's going to want money, and he's going to want to go somewhere where he can play and have starter reps. He does know the defense. He did play for Patrick Graham. He was more of a run stopper. He's not very good in coverage. Like you have a better version of him already in Perryman. If he was on the, let's say Perryman goes down in week 2 and Blake Martinez is on the streets, yeah, go get him.
Go get him.
And he could come in and back him up. But like, there's no reason to have him on this roster right now just to be a special teams guy. I'd rather have the younger guys that are making the money run down the field to make special teams tackles.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Special teams are already done. So that's a 53-man roster for this is the 2022 Raiders. So we'll see if they make any moves to continue to bolster the offensive line. Maybe a cornerback here or there. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens there as far as that goes. Waller. So Waller changes agencies. It looks like the talks are going pretty well. No deal right now is out, but he's at practice. I think this is where Darren wants to be. I don't think it's any question about it. I think the previous Clutch, whatever that was going on with Clutch, didn't get the deal done. It sounds like he's not with Steinberg, he's with Rosenhaus. Who's he with now?
Rosenhaus,
right? So Drew Rosenhaus, so veterans of getting deals done. So I think they will be able to get a deal done before the season starts. And Waller's going to be an integral part of what this team does. You've seen Gronk, you've seen Aaron Hernandez, you've seen all those guys, do some really cool things with in this offense. And I definitely think that Waller can do a lot of those same things. I get excited about Waller in this offense, especially Waller and Renfro, because the slot receiver and the tight end do great things with Josh McDaniels.
Yeah, I'm going to call my shot here. Darren Waller signs a contract extension by Wednesday's practice next week. Before the first practice for going and get ready for the Chargers, it's going to be a 3-year extension at 16 on the annual value. So 48 for, let's say 3 years, 48 million, 30 million guaranteed. They'll spread it out. So I think it gets done. It sounds like it was close. It sounds like something happened with Clutch Sports where they probably wanted a longer term deal, something more. And Darren's like, no, I want to be here. I like what they're offering. Let me go get another agent. Let me do this deal. So I think it gets done. As far as Darren Waller in this offense, he's going to be running a lot of seam routes and he's going to be matched up one-on-one. And if teams want to play middle of the field closed and, put a safety in the middle of the field and let him run up the seams, Raiders are going to score a lot of points. And you saw Gronkowski do that. I think they could even get in. I was just thinking the other day, like, why don't they go 13 personnel, 3 tight ends on the field, get 2x2, take Moreau over and line them up, kind of offset to the right tackle to help chip. Now you're running Horsted down one seam, Waller down the other, and on the outside, give me Renfro and Adams, and good luck covering those guys. Because how are you going to defend those guys? You're going to have to keep safeties back over the top of the 2 seam routes, and now you got one-on-one on the outside for your 2 best players. You want to double one of those guys, and Darren Waller's going to be running one-on-one down the seam. And who are you going to cover Waller with? You're not going to cover him with a linebacker or a safety unless it's Derwin James. So it's going to be really interesting to see that how they line up, because they can do a lot of different things with these guys.
Yeah, and then listen, I mean, you get a lot on the Put On Raiders podcast. You get diagram plays with personnel groupings on this show. Come on, cousin. Yeah, who's what I'm saying? We're killing you with that. But yeah, I mean, I even even like kind of drawing it up myself and like just looking at all the different combinations, like it's gonna be fun to see what they do. And just knowing it's week to week, like 1 week might be a Waller week, one week might be a Adams week, one week might be a Renfro week. Like it's gonna be pretty. 1 week might be just them running the football because you can't stop it. So should be interesting to see what happens as far as that goes, and what they do defensively. And we all know about how we feel on this program about Patrick Graham as well too. So that should be fun as well. So any other Raider news you want to hit up?
I'm really interested to see what the offensive line is going to look like. This roster, I think, is still there's still some tinkering between now and let's call it Tuesday. I think Wednesday's practice will kind of know what it's going to look like, because basically anyone that's on the roster, I believe it's 4:00 on Tuesday, their salary is guaranteed for the season. It might be Wednesday, but it's one of those 2 days. So maybe they bring in some veterans, some cheaper guys right now, try to get their week 1, and maybe go out and then sign some of the higher name guys, because they have cap room. The cap room can roll over. So maybe they do want to roll some of this over into next year when they already have $22 million in dead money. But I still think there's at least one or two guys are going to be added to this roster, and some of these guys are going to go back to the practice squad. I did spend a lot of time this week going through McDaniels' playbook, and like I mentioned, it's a lot of 2x2. Like I've got notes and notes of notes, so it's just going to be getting used to seeing what it looks like on film, and probably by like I'm like the offensive line. It might take me 6 or 7 weeks to kind of figure out what they're doing, but hopefully by the middle of the year. But it's a lot of one word, like let's say otter. Otter's a two-man route where the number one's running an out, the number two is running an option, and like he's just got all these. It's like one word, and it just tells everyone what to do on one side. So it's going to be really interesting how they do it. And
we're going to deep
dive. They have a lot of route combinations and a lot of routes that have routes off those routes that have another route off that route. And it's like my mind was spinning this week going through it. It's crazy, like compared to like just the normal West Coast offense. So they can do a lot of things, and it's different verbiage. So like what we used to think was drag and like slant flat in their system's called D-slant. So you just got to figure out how they call it. But it's going to be fun for me and for you watching the L22 once the season starts and kind of see, okay, like who's running what route? Are they the one? Are they two? Are they the three? Is it a 2x2? Is it a 3x2? Are they empty? Are they what personnel packages? Like, and I used to watch the Patriots on TV, and I'm like, oh, they got two backs. Like, how come they can't cover the back? Who's lined up out wide as the number one? And now you see how McDaniels is a genius in getting the certain matchups he wants, and it makes it really easy for the quarterback. I think Derek Carr is going to have a really good year.
So, and for me too, like, and we'll do a deep dive of McDaniels' offense next show. I mean, next to next show, next week.
I might need a little bit more time.
Yeah,
it's really complicated.
It is complicated, but I think the one thing I like about it is, and I'll leave it on that before we go to like the whole Garoppolo thing, is I remember last year and really studying Gruden's offense and you talking about people like Brian Edwards running cardio, like they're not part of the play. They're just running down the field. Hey, give me an 89 jersey, pay me some money. I can run down the field a bunch of times too. In this offense, there are no empty routes. Like it is not that way. So that's the one thing I do like about it a lot. If I'm a defensive coordinator, it's like every player is live. Because like I think in Gruden's offense, I think part of the reason why Gruden would start off fast and fade is because once he quote unquote put it on wax, people knew what the lyrics were, right? Like people knew what was coming by looking at the formation. He didn't change it up or do anything, and like to me, like there's no self scouting, no like, hey, like he didn't have anybody in the room to say, hey, John, like put that formation out there, but put a couple wrinkles in it so that we're not sitting, so people aren't just shutting it down so easily.
Yeah, I think the other thing I've noticed about these is they have routes, but then they have like another word for the same route that's based on the coverage. So like it could be a crossing route, but they call it shoot in their system. So if I'm running a shoot route, my route's dependent on what are the safeties doing. So if it's middle of the field open, I'm running a middle read route. So I'm splitting the safeties. If it's middle of the field closed, so they're playing single high, I'm running across. I got to stay in front across the face of the safety, and I'm running across the field away from them. So like all these receivers routes are based on the coverage they're seeing, and it's going to happen so fast. So once these guys get down the coverages and they see the same thing Derek Carr is seeing, like they can run all these plays against whatever defense you throw out there. Like there's all these built-in different variations to the routes that they can do. The Haas juke, the thing that they're famous for, they can run that against any defense. It doesn't matter if it's man, it's zone, it's cover 2, it's cover 5, it's cover 3. Like they can run it as long as they can block for 3 seconds. They can get whatever matchup they want and based on whatever coverage. So the quarterback, it's not like Gruden's offense was like the quarterback would pick a side at when he goes up to the line based on what coverage he thinks he's seeing, and then he's locked into that side. In this offense with Josh McDaniels, when Derek Carr gets to the line, every guy's an option, and he can literally it's a 2-man combination on this side, 2-man combination on this side. So you want to go single high, I'm going to this side because I already know what's going to be open. You want to go too high, I'm going to take the underneath route, the shallow cross, or I'm going to take the juke route, or I'm going to take the pivot route or the whip route. So like yeah, like the Raiders can do a lot of things in this offense, and I think it's going to be good for Derek Carr. I think Hunter Renfrow is going to have a monster year after seeing all the different option routes they have. They have a whole section of the playbook that's just option routes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. Like the book we're reading about it. We've had the guest on before, Bobby Peters. He kind of wrote a book about the Raiders offense.
Mm.
He did the Packers offense. He also did the Patriot offense, and it's fun. It's really like a scientist kind of going through it. So you can see why, yes, Brady was great, but you can see why they were so difficult to defend. You can especially in big moments of games. He was really cool stuff.